Good morning, good afternoon. It's morning somewhere. Okay. Oh, there we are. All right, are you gonna start the timer so I know exactly when I'm gonna get pulled off stage? There we go. All right, well, good afternoon. C5 Solutions is fairly apparent. Commissions and compliance are our two anchor items. And some companies have been getting along without much of a database, and I think you have some other players in the field who are now going to encourage you to maybe reconsider if you haven't really had some robust data handling. And one of the buzzwords, as I think a lot of you probably know John Simmers, he points out that with the CARDS initiative, which hopefully you're all aware of and maybe in some trepidation of, it's basically the FINRA big black box. And to what extent you might feel that you don't need to get involved with big data, you might want to reconsider that. So you have a couple of choices. You can sort of man up to the task of having the systems that are up to the task that will be at hand, or you might want to consider this.
You're going to need a bigger boat.
And some of you are going to a bigger boat. Can you spell RCS, Nick Schorsch? So some of you, though, are probably happy with your life. You like the idea of running your own broker-dealer, and maybe you don't want to get in the bigger boat, which means maybe you need to be in a better boat of your own. So with FINRA, big data is part of the conversation. And if you think about it, it always comes down to the little data, doesn't it? It comes down to how clean your documents are, how clean is your finer data. Because as with a sandcastle, you have to have small parts. So with notice to members 4213 with cards, you're brushing into big data. But you also know from Know Your Customer, from suitability, that you need to have the finer points of your data in clean condition. And those of you who are paying attention to the Notice Member 1019 fines, $625,000 a piece, that carries over into how you convey that information to your clients on statements. So those are all things that we have to get involved with. As far as big data goes, we have been around for a long time, since 1984. One of the top names in the database world, I think all of you know Microsoft SQL Server. I'm sure all of you are familiar with a company called Oracle. Worldwide, though, the real name is SAP, and that happens to be who we use as a database behind our system. We have special licensing. We can take it down to very small firms, all the way up through very large firms. So we're familiar with big data. But it is important to make sure that you know about the little data, because the little parts are what make up the big parts. And your audit, when you come down to the big fines, always comes down to little data. If you look at that Securities America fine for the $625,000, what did they cite? 500 incidents where they'd misstated a price. That gets down to, as a friend of mine would say, picking pepper out of fly droppings. So when you're dealing with the big data, just remember it doesn't do you much good if the little data is defective. You've all heard of GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. And the buzzword around here very much is NIGO, not in good order. Well, if you have GIGO, it leads to NIGO. Fair enough? So, quality control. Where do you get the fine aspects of your data? Where do you start clean? It has to start with the rep. The rep is your conduit of that data to get into your system. So you must have clean data, clean documents, and it really must start with the rep. So that leads to your initiative. What are you going to do about that? How are you going to get your reps on board? How are they going to give you the finer data? So is your rep smarter than a fifth grader? And do you want to train to that level? So in many of your cases, you adopt some sort of technology, then you train them up in the way of that technology and hope for the best. Or what we suggest is adapt and adopt methodology that meets your reps where they already have competency, where they know what they're doing. So with that, in the normal world here with Laser App, you put into some sort of data, if you're going to have a database involved, and then you create documents, or you go right to the document and you have no data delivery. In our case, we suggest that you create a form that goes, instead of data to documents, go documents to data. And with that, your reps already know how to use a fillable PDF. So take what looks like a fillable PDF, they fill it out, they know how to do it, and they've captured the data. Very easy to capitalize on it. Creates the form that enters the data, and then a rep prints it. Gets the signatures. That's your account information form. From there, you use that data to print the additional forms, the applications for the mutual funds, the annuities, whatever you need. From there, you get signatures, electronic or wet. From there, you submit it into workflow. So what happens when it goes into workflow? You've had the data gathered, the documents signed, the documents submitted. In our world, it comes up on a 2-screen array called a compliance console. The documents, the paperwork and the documents on the left screen, the data related to it's on the right screen. Gets a rapid review. Just like your stoplights at an intersection, if it comes back green to the rep, it's good to go. If it comes back yellow, it's deficient. If it comes back red, it's rejected. The key is, though, you're communicating with a single communications thread. You're not making a phone call, sending anything. You're not sending out another email, referencing an account. It's already attached to the account. So the rep is notified through that single thread. Then the rep sends the app and the check on your direct business straight off to the fund company, and it just hangs on to the original new account form. This is where I have it in the imaging that's tied to your workflow. So it arrives at the sponsor. Concessions get paid to the broker-dealer. The rep sees what's pending, what's paid through the exact same system they did the submission. And if we look at what happens in recap, these things happen in minutes. You create the form that loads the data. You use the data to build additional forms. You upload, you print additional forms, and it's already there. The signatures get attached to the database or to the paperwork. You submit it to workflow. You do the approval. It's all in place, and it's off to the sponsor. From the sponsor, then you move to days. They pay you. But you didn't tie up the works waiting for you so the rep could send it off to the sponsor. That happened in minutes. So what we're encouraging you to do, look for this banner that's in the other room and come join us. Provide us with a fillable PDF. We will very quickly turn it into a data entry tool for you and show you exactly how this works for your documentation. So with that, I thank you.